Okay, so we're going to get started here. Welcome everyone to our Parents Guide to Educational Savings. Today, we are going to embark on an insightful journey to navigate the complexities of planning and saving for your child's education. Having gone through this myself, our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools for a bright educational future. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm Kelly Olczak. I'm the managing partner of Lindley & Company. We manage the finances for a handful of families in our area, and I'm happy to say that we are 100% woman-owned registered investment advisor located in the Bushnell's Basin. That means that we are a fiduciary for our clients. Additionally, I am a certified financial planner and have held my designation since 2009. Joining me today is Chaz Miller, our operations manager, and my partner, Becky Gillette, our dedicated chief compliance officer. Chaz is going to be our moderator today, and she will help us with your questions, which you can use the chat function in Zoom. So please feel free to stop me with any questions about this presentation. As a firm, one of the things we like to do the most is educate our clients so that they can become more educated investors. So hopefully we will add some value to your life today. So understanding the education savings landscape. First, we're going to explore education savings and how you can save for school. And these options include, you've probably heard of 529s, but you may not have heard of Coverdell ESAs. Obviously, there are other ways that you can fund educational savings. And so I thought it'd be interesting to at least explore some of those that are non-traditional. So I'm going to walk through the different kinds of ways to fund education and the pros and cons. This is something I wish I knew more about when I was saving for our kids' education. So one of the most popular ways is using 529s. These offer tax advantage savings for future education costs. They're versatile. They cover education, what they call qualified education expenses, from tuition to room and board. And if your kid lives at home, even a car, not a Maserati, but sensible car. The investments within the 529 plan are limited. And that's because each state has their own 529. Like for New York State, JP Morgan is the money manager, so you can only use JP Morgan funds. We've got clients in Virginia, and their options are in American funds. So even though the investment lineup is limited, what I have found in the past is there are enough options in there to give your returns and your investments a good chance at getting where you need to go. It is crucial, however, to consider what your savings goals are so you know how much you need to save and what the school you might want to attend or your child to attend to. Now, the other thing I mentioned, state. Even if you live in Virginia or in New York, the 529 plan for that state can be used in any state as long as the school is an accredited institution. And recently, the Secure Act 2.0 is allowing 529s to be used for trade schools as well as high school and elementary school. So the next one is the Coverdell. So I've been practicing since 2005, and I have some clients that have legacy Coverdells. These came out prior to 529s, and they do have a lot more limits. Before Secure Act 2.0, they were really the only savings account that you could use to fund K through 12 costs. And the biggest negative, I think, was that you can only put $2,000 away a year, and they do have income restrictions. So the 529 does not have income restriction, and it doesn't really have an annual contribution limit either. Okay. So I'm going to cover some non-traditional ways to fund college as well. There are trusts that are set up that can be set up for children. They're called UGMA or UTMA trust. We used UTMAs, which is the Unified Trust for Minors Act. These do allow a flexible amount of investments. It's sort of like an IRA without the tax benefit and without tax deferred growth, but it will allow you to put pretty much anything you want in that type of account. One thing that, okay, so I also have to mention, this is not just for education savings. I have some clients who are grandparents and they are putting money in every year to this type of account for the kid. One caveat though is when the child becomes an adult, the account belongs to them. Whereas for the Coverdell and for the 529, that is not the case. Okay, next one. So Roths. Now, while I would not recommend people use their retirement savings ever to fund college, because you cannot get a loan for retirement where you can get a loan for college. I've had some clients use some of their Roth contributions to help meet a gap in some of their need for their kids. And what's interesting about the Roth is, let's say you put $5,000 a year into a Roth and you do that for 3 or 4 years. And so that's, you put now 20, let's say you did it for 4 years, you put $20,000 and it's grown to 50. You can still take the amount you put in, that 20 out without a taxable event. And it's because you put it in after tax money, when it comes out, it's not taxed again, but the growth would be. So you got to be conscientious of that. The Roth does allow you to choose your own investments, and it does give you some flexibility, especially to meet some gap. So the next two accounts are brokerage and checking accounts. So I'll go pretty quickly. Obviously, there's no taxable benefit for brokerage accounts. That's like if you had an account at Schwab that you put money into and invest in stocks, this type of account would belong to you, the adult. It cannot belong to a minor. That's where the UTMA comes in. There's no contribution. You can choose your own investments. They do, again, they lack the education specific tax advantages that the 529 and the Coverdell have, and they do obviously expose you to market risk. Checking and savings account, very similar. Money markets are doing pretty well right now. But cash does not always keep pace with inflation. And even though money markets are returning between 5 and 5.25% right now, when interest rates change, that money market interest will also change. So if the interest rates go up, it's probably certain that your money market will go up. And if interest rates go down, so will your money market go down. So it's not really a long-term education savings strategy that we use, but it's still available. Okay, so everybody, well, if you're anywhere in the process of getting ready to borrow for your child for college savings, there's this thing called FAFSA, and it's a form that you fill out so you or your child can become eligible for federal student aid. And I messed up because that slide's supposed to be later, and now, so forget that part. Sorry. The biggest thing that I see with clients saving for college is that they don't know how to diversify college savings. That's sort of where the 529s come in play, because 529s do have a really great option, which is age-based for your kids. So if you have a 401k or a retirement account with your employer, you might have an option for a target date for retirement, meaning you're going to retire in 2045. They do the 529s have the similar idea where it's age based. And what that means is when you have a brand new baby, your investments can be more aggressive, but the closer you get to that goal of going to college or needing those savings for education, the more conservative those investments should really be. So here are some notes that I like to share with our clients if they're going to go it on their own. You got to consider your time horizon. How soon do you need it? The sooner you need it, the more conservative your savings should be. This is not borrowing. This is your 529 or your Coverdale or a Roth or the UTMA, as I mentioned. You need to, this is something that I've really seen a lot. People set it and forget it. So if they're not using the age-based savings in a 529, the parent has to remember to go into the 529 and reduce risk the closer you get to needing that money. And okay, so I am a fiduciary, and the last bullet is a shameful plug. I do believe that we're very good helping our families figure out what the best strategy is for them, even if it's a mix of 529, savings from a Roth, and education. It's one of the things that we like to do the most in regard to helping you save for college, but also reducing any tax risk that you might that might affect you in some of your decisions. Okay, so there are ways to reduce costs when you're saving for college. And effective college savings obviously involves early planning, using the strategies we just talked about, but also seeking some scholarships if possible, and always diversify your savings approach to make savings affordable, but also as tax efficient as possible. I will mention that all of these slides will be sent out to you after our workshop today. There's a lot of information we are going to cover, so don't feel like you're missing anything. I'm going to share this information with you, and the webinar is recorded, so you can always go back and learn more. So reducing direct education costs can be achieved through strategies such as advanced AP classes. Chaz, what is AP again? Can't believe my kids are out of that. AP classes.
Advanced, yeah.
Yes,
They're
thank you.
advanced classes that you're earning college credits for in high school.
I just forgot what the P stood for. My niece, Hannah, when she graduated from high school, she was already a sophomore because of all the AP classes. Some of the schools allow you to take classes at your local community college, which both of our children did. That was pretty cool. Scholarships, advanced placement. Thank you. Can you tell I'm blacking out the high school years? I'm so glad they're over. Scholarships and grants, which we're going to cover the grants part a little bit. Work study programs when you're in college. I have found that textbooks have been having them online has helped our kids a lot, and live off campus, which I did when I was going through school. And as soon as Gracie, and actually Gracie did too, it was amazing to see how much better it was for her to live in an apartment with 5 roommates than have a dorm room. Okay, so here's the FAFSA. When we were filling out our FAFSA paperwork for our kids, it was 2020, and the process was pretty streamlined. Last year, the government screwed things up so bad, so it's been a little bit of a cluster. But I'm still going to talk a little bit about the normal process for FAFSA because it seems like the bottleneck, the tech issues that the federal government had when they launched last year's FAFSA have started to ease. So anyhow, let's start with what the traditional FAFSA deadlines are. They are very important. You need to make sure that you meet the deadlines as they come out. And that was part of one of the issues that people had, is that the forms were so bad, people couldn't meet some of these issues. But let's assume that those problems have been resolved. So your forms for federal deadline are pretty soon, June of this month. There is a correction and update phase, which I didn't know about. And that correction date is, these are all central time zones. September 14th, 2024. So if you made an error, you could resubmit, but your initial submission has to be done by June 30th this year, midnight Central Time. States are a little bit more wobbly. Each state has their own deadlines. And then college institutions may have their own FAFSA deadlines. And we'll try and talk to folks one-on-one if you're in different states and want to learn a little bit more about your situation. So the key points, as I mentioned, because of the problems that we had this year, they have extended the deadlines for this year. The changes increased flexibility. The institutions, because of the FAFSA problems, institutions may be a little bit more flexible. I was listening to NPR the other day driving home, and the report I was listening to said submissions are down 25% this year because of this problem, which is awful. So really, I'm going to share a lot of really great resources where you can get up to date on this stuff, but the FAFSA.gov website is super good. State education websites are being kept up to date. And at the end, you'll see some of the resources I have for folks, just if you are in a pinch. And again, remember, if you want help, we would be happy to answer any questions or point you in the right direction should you need it. Okay. For students and parents, if the student is dependent, when you're submitting FAFSA, there are some essential documents like your social security number, tax information, bank statements are crucial. If the student is not a US resident, their alien registration number is critical. W-2s for the previous year for students or the parents. And it did get easier. One thing I did hear from a client who did submit the forms is the paperwork is less tedious because they are connecting to your tax return. But these notes I put together last month, and the client I was talking to was 2 days ago. So I'm not sure the data is old, but it might be easier with this new process. Records of assets. So bank statements, investments, your IRAs are not, they want to know about them, but they're not eligible for using to pay for college. A FSA ID. So when you log into the the FAFSA website, you're going to create an FSA ID, and that is very important to make sure you use that on all your forms so they can connect the dots. So this IRS data retrieval tool, I did try and use it 2 years ago, and it was horrible. So I did not use that. I just uploaded my tax returns. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the clients that just filed said that was super easy. And then the other thing is you're going to want to know, even though you may not know for sure which school you want to get in, you want to have a list of your school codes so that you can include them in the application. Some folks have applied to 3 or 4 schools, and some folks don't know if they want to go to that school. Just have at least one of them on that form. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, your FAFSA ID is an electronic passport to federal student aid and online services. It serves as your legal signature, and it gives you access to your FAFSA online. So that's a very important first step moving forward. Okay, so obviously borrowing. If you don't have enough saved, we want to borrow very wisely. The federal government issues interest rates that everybody who is borrowing will pay for the coming year. So when savings and grants aren't enough and you have to borrow, we want to prioritize student loans for their favorable terms, because those terms, once you sign for a semester, that rate is locked in. There are private loans we'll talk about, and then there's this thing called Parent Plus loans for supplementary options. Okay, so here we go. So federal student loans are a preferred option because they've got a fixed rate and they have flexible repayment plans. They're designed to make education accessible, and various programs like direct, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans are available based on needs. Private student loans. So when we signed up for our son, we went through Citizens. That's a bank, obviously, if you're living in our area. But you can get loans from banks and student loans, credit unions and other financial institutions. They are credit-based. And the interest rate that you get from the private institution are based on your credit history. There are flexible amounts. So if you got a federal student loan and it didn't meet your need, your next step might be this private student loan to fill that gap. There are fixed rates and variable rates. In this market environment with interest rates coming down, it might be a good fit for you to have a variable rate option on this type of loan. So Parent Plus loans. These are similar to these federal student loans. Federal student loan is for the student, whereas a Parent Plus loan is for the parent. Similar in that it's available to parents of dependents of undergraduate students, covers the costs of attendance that your child may not have gotten through their side. Like our daughter got a Pell Grant, and it was like $5,000. We had to come up with the rest. Interest rates are fixed for the life of the loan. This is one of those loans that the federal government says for the winter semester of 2025, interest rates will be fill in the blank. Repayment can occur immediately after the loan is fully dispersed. I recommend you start paying on your loans if this is the case, because if you do not, interest rate will accrue. Home equity loans are another way that you can pay for student education. It does leverage the collateral in your home. Typically, interest rates are fixed. Lump sum payments allow for larger tuition expenses. However, you're on the hook. It's your house. So if you can't pay, your house is on the hook. And unfortunately, up until, well, because of the tax changes, interest rates are not deductible on home equity lines of credit. That being said, the rules may change in 2026, but I'm going to pretend like they are not going to. Okay. So here's a quick case study of the Johnson family to illustrate the approach they used for financial planning around college financing combined with early savings, investment diversification, and strategic borrowing. And this is a journey that is successful and it shows proactive planning and flexibility. Okay, so let's examine their journey for their daughter, Emily. They started planning early. They had the opportunity for Emily to use the AP classes. They started contributing when she was born, and they really focused on summer programs and making sure that Emily's academics were really good. Sorry, my notes are silly. They didn't transpose over here very well. So Emily's education, she excelled academically, and she did take AP classes and dual enrollment. And they leveraged the student loans, the scholarship and grants. They did leverage their home equity, but the amount that they borrowed was nominal concern when looking at the loans and grants. And then Emily participated in work during college so that it offset some of her expenses. So here are some resources that you're going to get in an email so you can research this on your own if you need help. We are here for sure. These are the websites for college financing and savings. Here are some resources for scholarships and grants. And one of the things that I learned early on in my career, I know that our kids really like certain schools and they have their heart set on, fill in the blank. There are a lot of lesser known institutions that have fantastic scholarship and grant programs because they want to become more well-known. So these websites are going to help you find different institutions that have really great scholarships and that you may not have ever heard of them, but they are really great institutions. Advanced placement classes. See, I'm trainable, Chaz. So here are some, here's a website that'll help you understand the AP classes. And I do recommend you reach out to any community colleges that might be in your area for this dual enrollment program. This is a really neat website, mymoney.gov. It does help you strategize on resources and tools for financial literacy and planning, so you can kind of get ahead of the curve there. I do like this website quite a bit, especially for folks that may not have a financial advisor. All of these websites and resources we've shared are to help you become a better, more educated, wise saver for your kids. And hopefully we've added a little bit of value to your day. And that is the end of our presentation today. I'm very grateful that you joined us. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope you have a very good day.